Hello and welcome to the second episode of Is It Good? This time we'll be looking at the Hand of Midas. So we'll be going over the Midas effect, what I call the Midas effect, along with what the Midas does, timings, the idea of timings in game and how Midas will affect timings, and finally combining these two to ask why is Midas good and when it should be picked up on what heroes and in what situations. We'll get right down to it. Midas costs 2,050 gold, gives you a passive plus 30 attack speed, and more importantly, it gives you the active transmute. Now, transmute has a cooldown of 100 seconds, gives you 190 gold, and gives you 2.5 times the experience of the creep which you use transmute on. So if you use it on the largest creep in the jungle, this will give you about 300 experience every 100 seconds. So using these values, we can do some analysis and see what impact Midas will have on your gold and experience throughout the game. And this is what we'll look at first. I refer to this as the Midas effect, and I want to look at this in 4 different situations. In the dark blue we have carries, and in the light blue we have supports, and then on the top half there's gold, and the bottom half there's experience. These numbers aren't true, they aren't exact, but they're good estimates. So gold takes into account starting gold from natural gold, which you get per second, along with gold from killing creeps, and just gold from as you snowball throughout the game, there's more gold from killing heroes and you'll be able to kill more creeps. Experience takes this in as well, but it doesn't use, there's no natural experience. So both of these you see kind of an exponential curve, and for carries you see a much steeper curve because they earn much more gold much faster, while for supports it's much shallower and you see they get to much lower numbers. So 70,000 gold, maybe it's 60 minutes for a carry. That's a little bit over the top, but it's kind of in the right area. Maybe 40,000, 50,000 if you're really good, and 10,000 if you're a support. And it's kind of the same for experience. You'll get a carry, with 6 minutes you get to 25, with a support maybe you'll get to 18, 19. So on to the gold earned by the carry. There's 2 things that should be noticed here. The first is that for 20 minutes after purchasing the Midas, you will have had less gold than you would have had if you hadn't have bought Midas, because you have given 2,000 of your gold away for essentially an item which does nothing but farm. The second point, which you should realise, is that it doesn't really have a big effect. If you look up at this top section here, you're already really, really high. You've already got 50,000 gold. You're adding on an extra 2,000, 3,000 gold. It's a very, very small amount, even over a massive length game. And so if you are expecting to have a high GPM, why are you willing to sacrifice your early game and be behind for 20 minutes just for an extra 3,000 gold in late game, which won't have a big effect because you've already got stacks of cash? Now, on to supports, the case is very different. The 2 things noticed here should be, first, Midas is much more difficult to get. To get up to that 2,000 gold takes even longer, and this graph doesn't take into account dying and having to buy wards and sentries and smokes and all that stuff you should be buying as a support. So the first point is Midas is difficult to get hold of as a support. The second point is Midas has a much bigger effect. Still, you're only getting 3,000 gold over the length of about 4,000 gold over 60 minutes. But the point is, because you're only 8,000, 9,000 gold, that 3,000 is a big deal. That goes from you being able to now afford maybe a mechanism or a pipe, which beforehand you couldn't have bought. You shouldn't be buying a mechanism at 60 minutes in, but we'll get to that later. So that's the second big issue. So by looking at the gold, you should see you lose gold, and you should also notice the difference between the two, that for the low GPM heroes, Midas is better. Now on to experience. Here we see no loss in gold and loss in experience because Midas doesn't take away any experience, but we do see the same effect that you're not having a big difference. If we say, so getting to level 16 is 13,000. 13,000 maybe you're getting there at 25 minutes to 30 minutes. This is a little bit too quick in my opinion, and you can move that down 5 minutes maybe, but that isn't a big deal. You're already getting there really quickly, and you'd rather have the gold, to be honest. On experience, we see a big difference here. Because your experience gained is so low, here you would be getting to 16 at maybe 50 minutes in, but you can shift that 10 minutes, and that 10 minutes could make a big difference because you could finish at 40 minutes in, and if you have your 16, you could turn that fight and win the game. So it's important to realise from these 2 graphs, first off, that XP, you only get XP. So if you really care about XP, you're a hero which needs a lot of experience, Midas is good. And second, if you're a hero which struggles to get experience, Midas is even better because it makes a much bigger effect than it would have otherwise. Anyway, so they're the ideas we can learn. For low gold per minute and experience per minute heroes, Midas is better. And for heroes which want more experience and who don't care about gold as much because they don't mind about this big loss in gold, Midas is better. So, on to the second concept, timings. An item you purchase will have a different effect throughout the game, and I'm going to look at 2 examples to illustrate this. The first is Vanguard. So Vanguard gives you 32 damage block from melee sources. It gives a different number for ranged, but we're just going to say it's a melee carry. So at 10 minutes in, the melee carry hitting you does 75 damage, so you get a 45% damage block, and this is equivalent to 13 armor. So 30 armor, 10 minutes in, that's like a plate mail. A plate mail is 1,400 gold. Like, being able to, so it's a really big effect, as I want you to notice, and it also gives about 200 HP and the 8 regen per second, so it's a really big deal. Don't quote me on those numbers, they're probably wrong. But at 30 minutes, the carry's hitting for 200 damage. Now it's a 16% damage block. This is just nothing. This is 3 armor. This is a ring of protection. So it's an extreme example, but it does vary throughout. If you pick up your Vanguard 5 minutes later than you would have otherwise, it kind of loses a lot of effect. And whereas at 8 minutes in, you're just running through towers, you're ignoring everything, nobody can kill you, you're the dog's bollocks, it doesn't matter. At 30 minutes, people are going to be laughing at you because you've bought a Vanguard and you've wasted 2,000 gold. Battle Fury is the same case, but for a different reason. So if we say Battle Fury allows you to clear the jungle once every minute. This is an over-exaggeration because there's other problems, but we're going to just do this for the sake of the example. So jungle on average provides you approximately 500 gold for every clear and 870 experience. So you, by delaying the Battle Fury for 6 minutes, which would probably how long it would take to earn that extra 2,000 gold back up, that would be 3,000 gold loss and 5,000 experience. Obviously this is extreme, but I want to illustrate pushing back a farming item normally loses you the gold. So not only have you lost 2,000 gold, you've also gone and lost 3,000 gold for not being able to farm. So you're now down 5,000 gold than you would have been otherwise. And yes, you will make that up at an hour and 20 minutes into the game. But if you're an anti-mage, you don't care about that. You want to get your Manta and your Basher as fast as possible, and you don't care about being six-slotted, because by the time this starts to earn that back up, you'll have already fallen off because you'll have run out of slots. So what you care about is getting to that 20 minutes, 25 minutes, having those items, and not 80 minutes. So I've already started going into the importance of timing, but if you push back a critical item, Midas is not good. And this is the second set of ideas, second idea I want people to understand, which is that if you're skipping out or you're missing an item and it's going back, even if it's just a Shadow Blade or a Blink, it has a big deal. 5 minutes can make or break a game. Somebody ganks your lane, or if there's a team fight which you have to TP to and you don't have that key item, you don't have a Shadow Blade, or maybe you haven't got a Blink yet, or you haven't got a Veil because you bought a Midas, and you lose that fight, that Midas is winning that fight would have done so much more than having the Midas, because you might win, you'll probably lose the next fight, and the fight after that, and the fight after that. So there's a lot about snowballing, and unless you can be sure you're not going to get into a fight for, say, 20 minutes, and you're just going to have to do whatever you want, and the game's going to go long, don't buy Midas. It's just not worth it for the vast majority of heroes. Now, on that kind of rash statement, we'll go into when you should be buying Midas, because it's not a terrible item, but there are times when it's worth getting. You can see the good and bad heroes over there, but we'll talk about first. So first, if you're playing Arc Warden, you buy the Midas. I don't want to talk about Arc Warden because I think he's going to get patched, to be honest. Like, there's a serious problem with him in Midas. You basically get to use Midas twice, so it's kind of broken. And if Arc Warden gets patched and I say buy Midas on Arc Warden, like in 6.88, buy a Midas on Arc Warden. Everyone knows that. But what about more general principles? First of all, if you're playing a level-dependent hero, if you care about getting your 16, getting up those levels, Midas is good. And you're not so fussed about gold, Midas is really good. You don't have any item timings, so there's not a big item which you depend on. If you're playing like Lion, you want that Blink. I know he's not a carry, but he obviously is level-dependent, but having a Blink can swing the game so much because you can make so good ganks. If you need these items early on, don't buy Midas. If you have low GPM, that's a good time to buy a Midas, because you're getting a much bigger effect from that, and you can now maybe buy an extra item by the end of the game, or this also is low XP per minute, I should say. And finally, if you are not going to push, or the other team isn't going to push, more likely the other team's not going to push. If they are going to push, and you see them taking a tower at 10 minutes in, or 8 minutes in, or they've just got a lot of heroes which can knock down towers quickly, don't buy that Midas, because you're going to regret it, and you're not going to get to 20 minutes from that point, so 28 minutes into the game, when you would start to make money back from the Midas. So you've essentially just thrown that money away and made your life even harder. You're now 2,000 gold down and against an early game draft. Don't do it. The good heroes first. Invoker, he's so level dependent. He wants his level 25. Every level he gets unlocks more spells and allows those spells to do more damage. And having higher levels allows him to just do so much damage. He has no major items. There's obviously a lot of the items he likes. Acceptor, Octarine, Blink, Yules. But all of these items facilitate his levels, which is what Midas is doing. It's facilitating his levels, his items and his spells and his levels. And what you want is to facilitate those spells. And Midas does that, and Acceptor does that, and Octarine Core does that. One of the key principles on Invoker is that he keeps using the experience all the way up to 25, because he has that Deafening Blast 25. Also, he's got no flash farm. He can't really kill camps that easily. He can clear a creep wave quite quickly, but he can't clear camps like many other heroes can. Ancient Apparition, very powerful ultimate. If you can hit a level 16 ultimate, it can change a fight. It can almost turn a fight, because you stop everyone healing and you do a massive amount of damage to everybody. He doesn't need a major item. He doesn't need a blink. He doesn't need a pipe. Doesn't need a force laughs. Doesn't need even arcane boots. He can just use brown boots and a few sport items like smoke, wards, sentries, and that's enough. And then you can farm up that Midas. And there's also no way, and he's got no way of farming. He's got cold feet, but it just doesn't do anything. He can right click creeps in lane, but it's just not enough. Phoenix, very powerful ultimate. Once again, if you get your level 16, it can swing a fight. They just maybe 1 or 2 hits off, and that turns the fight and turns the game. Does want certain items. Which is why Midas isn't that good, because he kind of wants Veil, and wants Shivas, and wants Urn, and also wants Tranquils, and so you do start to lose the effectiveness of Midas, and this is why we're seeing Midas not picked up as much anymore. But if Phoenix moves back to the off lane, and if the game starts to go a bit later, we might see him start to take it again, and he can't really farm. There's no good way of farming Phoenix. So if you are going late into the game with Phoenix, I think it's worth getting a Midas, but a lot of the time you want to end early if you're a Phoenix, so it's not a great choice, but it's one of the best heroes. I think at the moment, Midas isn't a great item because of the patch. The bad, and these are the worst 2 offenders. Anti-Mage, and these kind of make me angry inside. Levels are basically not very important for him. He just cares about items. It doesn't really matter how many levels you get on Anti-Mage. You get your 16, it's kind of good, it's obviously going to make a difference, but it maybe kills one person off normally. You get those massive mana voids you see on Plays of the Week, but you're not playing for that. You're playing for high damage, you're playing for Basher or Abyssal, plus Manta, and you blink in, you Abyssal someone, and you just destroy them immediately, and then maybe use the mana void to kill them if you need to. And so your concern is much more about gold than it is about item XP. The first reason why it's terrible on Anti-Mage. He needs a Battle Fury as early as possible. As I went into the example, 5 minutes can make a big difference. Second reason why he needs that early is that Anti-Mage benefits by being able to farm up and be slick slotted by 30 minutes. So if you buy this Midas at 8 minutes, at 28 minutes you've made up that 2,000 gold, so now it's 0 cost, and then you wait another 20 minutes, you've earned 2,000 gold. So you waited 40 minutes, it's 48 minutes into this game, and you're already 6 slotted, you don't need that 2,000 gold. What are you going to use 2,000 gold for? That's half of a moon shard, which you threw away your early game for. And if you'd have just got that, and by that time you're going to have to sell the Midas because you've run out of slots, so you're never going to get anything back on it. It's just a terrible item. And yeah, he's got very high GPM as well. This is the same for Alchemist. He needs 16, but he gets there so quickly. He wants early game impact items. You buy a Midas. By the time you're getting to 30 or 40 minutes in, you've got no more slots left. You sold that Midas. Why did you have a Midas? You basically earned like 1,000 gold by delaying all your other items. And that 1,000 gold is piss in the ocean compared to everything else. It's utterly frustrating when I see an alchemist pick up a Midas, because it's like saying, I have no idea how to play this hero. I'm just going to buy the Midas because it's made of gold and I think I want to farm a lot. I'm going to sell it at 30 minutes into the game because I'm 6 slotted and I need a space for some other item. And then it's going to waste the money. So if you take anything away from this hero, if you're playing an energy carry, if you're playing a high farming carry hero, don't buy a Midas. It's that simple. Whatever the patch is, don't buy a Midas. So after that little rant, there's a few things we can take away from the conclusion. First of all, I want to say that Midas may get better in other patches. This patch is quite fast. People want a lot of items. They want to get those items quickly in fight. And that's why we're seeing heroes like Morphling and Slark and PA. They want to fight early game. And if you're buying a Midas, you're going to be left behind. But there may be patches where we try to transition back to Spectre and these much slower heroes. And that's when Midas might come back in for some heroes. And so I want to say these rules still apply in slower patches. And then you need to be asking the question, how slow is this game? But I also want to say I don't really blame players for thinking, especially players, for thinking Midas is great on a farming hero, because it's like it's portrayed that way by Valve. It's the hand of gold. When you think Midas, you think lots and lots of gold, but the truth is that's not what it does. It loses you gold and it gets back you very little over time. What it really is a hand of experience, which sounds a bit creepy. It's a hand of experience, and it gets you a reasonable amount of experience, a modest amount of experience, and which is good for certain heroes who cannot get that on their own. The takeaways are that Midas will lose you gold for the first 20 minutes after purchased, and for after that it will get you a small amount, which will normally be dwarfed if you're a high farming hero. Its main impact is experience. Second, both XP and gold are static, so they benefit low gold per minute and low experience per minute heroes more than they do benefit high gold per minute and XP per minute heroes. And finally, Midas delays their item. If you need a big item, if you want that 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 gold item at 10 minutes in, you shouldn't be buying Midas, or at 14 minutes in, you shouldn't be buying Midas, because you want that item as fast as possible so you can win those team fights early on and get the snowball going. If you can't win those team fights, things are going to fall apart and you're probably going to lose the game. The vast majority of late games are lost in the first 20 minutes. So, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. I hope I didn't just rant. There's some of the key points I've gone over. If you've got any questions, you can leave them in the comments, and hopefully I'll be doing another one of these soon. If you have any comments about the video either, please let me know. I do enjoy making them, and I'll hopefully be coming out with another one soon for any items. If you've got a suggestion, let me know. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.